Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Double Game Week 37 pod of the FPL Wire. I'm your host, Zofa, and I'm joined by my co host, Late Riser. I don't need to ask you how it's going, LR. Everything must smell like roses after that Wilson captaincy haul.
Yeah, I actually feel like Roy Hodgson and his Crystal Palace team a little, like on the beach, gloves are off, just chilling, having a good time. And I think that's when I tend to play decent FPL. So yeah, things are good. How are you? How's everything going? And are you looking forward to the week that's coming? It's a derby pod.
Yeah, I've been on the beach for a while. I think this is since Lampard's appointment. I think once we hit 40 points, the flip flops were firmly out. And this is our derby pod is a tradition we always get out. And I think it's the probably least I've been confident / excited going into a wire derby.
Yeah, that's what sort of worries me a little. You know what I'm saying? Like normally when both of us are serious, I do fancy us against Lampard's Chelsea. But right now, I'm just not sure. I just don't know what you guys are up to. It's incredibly unpredictable. I'm just hoping you guys don't pull out a performance against us.
I don't think we need to. I know it's quite funny that you sent me some Chelsea data, right? When you sent me that, I was like, what is the point even looking at this stuff? But we'll present it anyway.
Because people come to us for the punts, right? I mean, we're talking Gameweek 37. Yeah, people are desperate, people are looking to make ground. And I think we need to just be very clear when we're saying, no, don't go here. Don't go here.
I've seen people lurking nightclub floors at 4 a.m. who are less desperate if you're looking for a Chelsea player.
Cheers. Let's get into the sponsor plugs and we can move on to them.
All data you see on the FPL Wire is taken from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. The new improved members area is now up and running, and the new comparison tool lets you compare key stats for up to 3 players. Player projections are also live, and as always, you can access the custom stats table we create or make one for yourself. Sign up for membership today using our affiliate link in the description below. Right, let's get right into it. Or do we want to talk about the game week gone, or just that'll come up in natural conversation, right?
Just a little bit of housekeeping before that. I think it's worth mentioning that we're going to be here next season as well, and we want to upgrade a little bit in terms of what we do on our YouTube, etc. So we're hiring at the moment, and I think it's the right time to make this announcement. So if you're some sort of video expert who can, help us with animations and graphics, etc., you understand the YouTube algorithm as well as everything social, we're just looking to hire somebody full-time on board. Obviously you will be paid for the same as well. So yeah, if you're interested in the gig, just email us at the fplwire@gmail.com, and what we'll do is we'll put the email ID in the description below as well. And yeah, we're looking to view some portfolios and hire somebody in the summer. Cool. We can move on now.
Let's start with Manchester United. So,
Right. Ooh, go on.
so I think what we need to talk about first is motivation and incentive right now. The way the results have played out after yesterday, Newcastle need only one win to secure Champions League qualification, and you guys need two, which would make game week 38 pretty much irrelevant from a Champions League's perspective. So I think the main team to really invest in this double is Manchester United, and I like the fixtures. You are playing Bournemouth and Chelsea. Bournemouth are on the beach. It's the last home game. You expect them to attack a little bit. So there's a lot of, I think, return and interest in Manchester United. I've got the numbers up now. This is for this calendar year. In terms of XGI, we see Bruno on top, Rashford. Now, the tricky thing is most of us are already at least doubled up on Manchester United. Most have Shaw. I think most of us have Rashford. Let's talk about Bruno first. Do you shoehorn Bruno in by getting rid of Salah? Is Bruno a must?
Wow, we're going to the big one. Straight up, huh?
Let's do it.
I mean, we're talking about Mo Salah here. You're probably talking about two of the best defenses he can face. We're talking about a player who's had 12 goals, 6 assists, and 2 penalty misses in his last 15 appearances. He's pretty much averaging more than a returner game at the moment. So if you can't help it, and if you really want Bruno Fernandes in your team, then you go Salah to Bruno. But that's the only possibility, and that's the only way I'll recommend selling Mo Salah. In my opinion, Mo Salah, I mean, assuming Haaland is the best pick in the game, is the second best FPL pick in the game, is performing consistently, is a great captaincy option in game week 38 as well. If you can help it, don't sell him. And the argument is that, I don't want to sit on the fence here where, if Rashford is fit, he's just a better captaincy option anyway. And if you want to punt, there is a certain player called Anthony you can punt on as a captaincy option anyway. So I do think that Bruno Fernandes, given Rashford's fitness, is probably the second best United pick or the best pick, depending on how fit Rashford actually is. But so get him. He should be a priority. But if you're getting him, find another way than Mo Salah. If you can't help it, do it. But I just don't feel comfortable selling Salah at the moment.
Because game week 38 captaincy, I think Mo is far and away the best pick. Even though Liverpool might not have anything to play for, usually I like these games when you're up against the relegated teams at home. They usually go for it as well. It's usually like a 5 goals, 4 goals, either way. High scoring game. And I think 38, I wouldn't be comfortable going Haaland. You never know what's going to happen over there. So if you do sell him, then it's a big problem for 38. I think only if you're really looking to captain him is when I would possibly take a hit for Bruno or sell Salah, because I think I want to mention Villa's high line as well. Match of the Day did a bit on it. I think since Emery's appointment, Villa have caught opponents offside, I think 93 times. The next best is 60 odd. And I think for Liverpool, right, the matchup is tailor made, because who's going to be playing behind that last man? It's going to be Salah.
Yeah, I remember their game against us really, really well. I mean, we cut them apart at will, especially in the first 45, 50 minutes. I'm like, what really? Emery, you're playing this high line against us, and it suited us to perfection. And I think it's going to suit Liverpool, like you mentioned. In fact, even suited Spurs, but Son was just mistiming those runs so much. But yeah, that's why I just fancy a Salah goal or two against Arsenal at the moment.
So let's talk about the third United pick, and someone like me right now, I have a third United slot open. I'm debating now whether to get in Luke Shaw or to get in Anthony Martial. Now, why Martial?
Who do you have?
I have Bruno and Rashford.
Okay.
So the thing is with Shaw is now the fixtures look good for clean sheet on paper. I don't think the Bournemouth one so much. I think Bournemouth might score. I don't expect Chelsea to score. Now that he's playing left back, I think his potential increases a lot more. I think Scout did a mention about how Bournemouth concede a lot of chances down that flank. We'll have a look at the Fantasypedia matchups as well. But don't you think Martial will start both these matches? Now the spacing is quite good. United play Saturday and Thursday. It's quite good for that.
I don't want to sit on the fence. I think he starts one and doesn't start the other. I think Rashford, if fit, it all depends on Rashford's fitness. If Rashford is fit, I expect him to play forward in one game and left winger in the other because Sancho is hanging around. Garnacho is back fit. So we could easily see Garnacho or Sancho play one game with Anthony on the right and Rashford central. So I'm not feeling fully confident about Martial's ability to play minutes. I think he play because it's worth mentioning that there is no reason for him to not start both the games. It's just me feeling confident. I think you can say he's good for 120 minutes. I don't feel confident about the 150.
The reason I'm asking is the Scout did an article on this. Marshall's actually got the best XGI amongst all Manchester United players this season. I know limited minutes helps, but again, I don't think he'll play 38. But for this, I think the upside feels more with Marshall in terms of ownership, right? Because if I get Shaw in now, feels like I'm just going to be just keeping pace with the pack.
Yeah, like just punt on Marshall, and I'm the biggest Anthony Marshall fan there is. But I'll tell you what, like he isn't the player that he was 6 months ago or at the start of the season as well. Because I think I mentioned this previously on this podcast as well. The injury has impacted him a little. He anyways didn't have aggression, but even the little bit of aggression and a little bit of pace that he did have, I think he's lost it. I don't think he's the same player anymore. So, in when it comes to United attack and when it comes to punts that you're looking for, I'd say that Rashford and Bruno are up there. I mean, Bruno's stats and numbers are fantastic. Bruno is top of the midfield pack for NPXG amongst midfielders in the last 6, if I'm not mistaken. He was great in the previous game as well. Top for chances created, top for shots. So he's going to be involved. He's an incredible pick. Probably, if Rashford's fitness is a doubt, he's the best captaincy option this week, in my opinion. But outside of these two attackers, if you're punting on a United attacker, I'd say, in my eyes, Anthony Dos Santos is ahead of Anthony Martial because I'm just not feeling confident about Martial's minutes. The thing is, he plays center forward for Manchester United, so he's going to get chances. But with Anthony, right, like the thing is, I read this stat from Neil. He's scored, I think, 6 goals from about 80 plus 84 shots or something like that. And most of these shots have come in the last 6-7 matches. When you're watching United as well, he gets a lot of chances, a lot of shots. The problem is his decision-making ability and his finishing ability isn't that great. That said, you could just get lucky. You don't know. Like there is a 20-point haul sitting there somewhere. So if picking a third United attacker, I'd go for Anthony Dos Santos over Martial. And I'm the biggest Martial fan. Nothing wrong with Martial, but I'm just saying I don't want to sit on the fence with my opinion. That's all.
The reason I'm asking for the midfield slot seems a bit crowded, but I think there is a Isak slot you could possibly look to get rid of. We saw he was pretty peripheral in the last 2 games with Wilson Central. Newcastle need only one more win now. I think on Monday we can expect against Leicester, Isak will be on the wing again. And by 38 again, not much to play for. So Isak to Martial is, I think, a punt that does appeal to me.
It's a good punt. I won't be against it. I think if you're holding Isak, there are 2, maybe 3 strikers based on news that we hear that I fancy. Isak's one, Gabby J is another. We'll talk about Chelsea later, but I do have a little feeling about Felix. I think he is going to put in one performance because he's been teasing all season in terms of hitting the par, looking just like he's close to points, etc. So there's that. Yeah, Marshall's probably the best punt if you're looking at an Isak replacement, if you're looking to sell Isak.
Final question from a selfish point of view. Play Trippier or bring in Shaw?
Shaw. I've got a good feeling about Luke Shaw this week. The flank matchup is there against Manchester United as well. And just Luke Shaw at left back is just a really, really good FPL pick. I think if you are able to take ownership, etc., out of the contention, if you're taking into consideration that we've got 2 home games left until the end of the season, and he looks good for 270 minutes outside of Bruno. The only other player you'd be really confident about 270 minutes, that's Luke Shaw. Just a good pick.
Fair enough. Anything on Man United?
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they're the best captaincy option this week? I think let's have this discussion now. Or you want to save it for later?
I mean, let's have it now. Why not? Since we're right at the start now. I think it's between the United guys and Haaland, right? And the thing is with City is we expect Haaland, of course, to start the first one. The second one is a little bit iffy because the turnaround is short. They play Chelsea on Sunday. They play Brighton on Wednesday, having already played Real Madrid the previous Wednesday. Now, Haaland started every game when he's been available, and he could get a hat-trick against Chelsea and render the second game completely meaningless, right? That's always the fear. But I really like the matchups for Manchester United this week. The Bournemouth game, especially, I think will be high scoring. That being said, you guys have
Yeah.
struggled to score goals off late. So you tell me.
Now, we've struggled to go score goals not because we aren't creating that many chances. We've struggled to score goals because we haven't finished them.
Absolutely.
That said, if Rashford, Bruno, and Anthony are on the pitch, I do feel like the chances could go in if Bournemouth are continuing to be on the pitch, because the manager did mention, that they're not going for every tackle as much. In fact, I think that the fact that he mentioned that they're on the beach, he's going to make sure that something like that doesn't happen in the game against United. I just think the matchups favor us. I think United is the way to go. I mean, all season I haven't recommended swerving against Erling Haaland much, because you have to respect the player that is Erling Haaland. I mean, what a performance that was against Madrid. 45 minutes are enough for him to score a hat-trick. That's the level that Manchester City are on at the moment. That's the level of football that they're playing. Like, if you're telling me to bet against even 2 or 3 goals in just one game against Chelsea, it's very difficult. It's just so good right now. And Pep will want that home win against Chelsea to secure the title against his in front of his own fans, etc. as well. So, but I mean, what are we doing here, right? I mean, I think I can fairly confidently say that I'm expecting City to win against Chelsea. And then Manchester, and the Fantasy Football Scout has done a long article on how in the last 5-6 seasons, once the title's wrapped up, we're expecting the City players' first choice to play in 38 because rhythm. He likes to play his first choice team once things are wrapped up just before the cup game. So I'm expecting the first choice to play in 38. That means the game against Brighton, we're expecting 4 or 5 changes from his fringe players. So I do think that Haaland probably sits that game out.
It doesn't
And
make sense to
if you're
risk
willing
him.
to roll the dice, yeah, doesn't make sense to risk him with 2 cup games. So yeah, that's where we are. And I mean, you know how Chelsea have been playing. Do you think there's a chance Chelsea make City drop points in that home game?
No, absolutely
No, right?
not.
Absolutely not, right? So yeah, I mean, it takes a lot. I mean, you can sense my hesitation recommending anybody but Haaland cap in a double game week even here, because it can be season destroying, but I think it's the time to do it.
Rashford versus Bruno, which one?
If Rashford's fit, Rashford's the better pick, but I don't know how fit he is. And I don't know if Ten Hag has any reason to save him. So Bruno captaincy. I even think Anthony as a punt is a good captaincy option.
I think
if
Bruno.
Somebody's chasing, go.
Yeah, Bruno.
Yeah, Bruno's involved in everything. Yeah, but if somebody's chasing, put that armband on Anthony if Rashford's fitness looks dicey. If Ten Hag says, yeah, he's fine, he's trained 2 days and everything looks fine, then Rashford's just a good captaincy option.
You mentioned doesn't have anything to save him for the cup final. There's the FA Cup final, possibly, right? But I guess clinching the top 4 first is the priority.
He would not want to leave it for the last day. Nerves happens, funny things happen, and it's not like a draw will help us, right? We need 2 wins. So if we drop points against Chelsea, we are going to need 3 points against a Fulham that has been playing fairly well. I don't think Ten Hag can afford to risk it. I don't think it's as easy as people make it out. He will want to take 6 points in the next 6 available.
Agree with you there. Let's wrap up Man United. And before we talk about our favorite team, let's just touch upon Man City, about their players, right? There's so many guys who are like Gundogan is a big bandwagon there. A lot of people who own Alvarez, Mahrez. Where are we on City assets?
I think there are 2 ways of looking at it, right? One is captaincy. We mentioned that this probably seems like a good week to swerve against because we're expecting a fair amount of rotation in the second half, in the second game against Brighton. Like even Edison isn't safe now, in my opinion. We've seen him flog Scott Carson in the past, etc. as well, right? So, but the good thing is that the City players you own, they're likely going to play 2 games in the next 2 game weeks, which is good because they're the best team in the league. You're going to get 180 minutes-ish, not 180, maybe 160 minutes-ish from your City assets. So, if you're holding the likes of Grealish, etc., I'm expecting 1 start this week and 1 start in 38 because rhythm. But are there captaincy options? No. So, if you want to swerve, you can swerve, but they're good for 2 games in the next 2 games.
More of a hold. You just don't buy whatever you have, you hold. There's something on De Bruyne that Henry mentioned that he's playing through a personal problem. So De Bruyne in particular, you might not get 38 as well. I don't obviously have more details about that, but it's something to monitor. I think he will play against Chelsea, clinch the title,
Yeah.
but then after that, he becomes a bit of a flag.
What do you think about for Isak replacements, Martial versus Alvarez?
I think they both get similar number of minutes because again, if once you guys clinch it, I don't think Marshall will start versus Fulham. I don't think Alvarez will start against Chelsea, but I think I like Marshall. I think he starts the next two games. Maybe I'm being a little bit biased and
Yeah.
building a narrative a little bit. I'm trying
No,
not
you're
to.
right. No. No, it's not impossible. Marshall can start, and especially because the distance between the games is pretty significant, and I think he is a part of 10x first choice team. So I don't think you're wrong.
Because I don't think Sancho has been playing very well, and I don't think Rashford is suited to that role up top. We always talk about how Rashford's better on the left wing, the link up with Marshall. So if I had to pick one, I think it would be Marshall today.
Yeah, you're talking me into Marshall. Imagine there would be a time where I was maybe pushing him on the side a little bit, and then no, you're right. You're right. I actually track back on what I said earlier. I do expect Marshall to start 2 games, I think.
Anything more on City?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in our Discord have been fancying a little bit of Mahrez, etc. as well. What do you think about that?
I think he's
A
probably
lot of people are
the
actually
best one.
fancying Mahrez captaincy this week as well.
Out of all the City guys, you think about it, right? Grealish probably sits out one for Foden. Haaland probably sits out for Alvarez. De Bruyne probably sits out. Gundo just played a load of games recently. So it's only Mahrez on that right side, I think, that really is puntable because these aren't really Bernardo games unless he gives Chelsea a lot of respect and he thinks he needs Bernardo for the control. They're both Mahrez games to me. And I think again, Mahrez might not start 38 and all that. So after all the mids, I think Mahrez is probably the one I would punt on.
Yeah, and especially a Hail Mary captain's armband. I don't mind it,
He's not had much
Like,
goal threat
but
of late. His goal shot numbers have been significantly down. I think last 6 matches only 9 shots. Chances created are quite good. So maybe there's been a tweak in his role which affects his ceiling. But that being said, Haaland not on the pitch, he probably takes the penalties.
in the second game, yeah, you could see that. Yeah. Like there's a shot. I don't mind it. If people want to go Mahrez, go for it. And thanks to Discord, because I wasn't thinking about it otherwise.
The Brighton game, I think City will want to put on a show, right? It's a whole De Zerbi thing. I think Pep's got a little bit of a thing with him. He wants to prove himself up.
Yeah, I saw Pras mention that on above average FPL, but I think minutes are important here, right? Like the thing is, even City's second best team is just very much capable of blowing off Brighton's first choice team. So that's where we are.
And in terms of the defenders, I don't think anybody we can be confident on playing 2 games, like you mentioned, even Edison. So
not even Edison safe.
Yeah, bit of a trap this double, to be honest, for Man City. And let's touch upon the
For Man City,
free hit conversation as well while we are here, because we got some questions on the Discord again about free hit 37 versus 38. I'm firmly of the opinion that 38 is way better just because of the way the teams are shaping up. The guys with incentive in this double are only like pretty much your Man United and Brighton, right? Chelsea are not really investable.
but imagine that's going to fuck with your head so much. A game week 38. Imagine setting up a team. Then imagine 10 minutes with deadline to go. You're getting a flurry of last minute news, etc., which you're going to react to, the confusion in your head, etc. I've done a game week 38.
We have to. The same season we
free
did.
hit. And it was the sweatiest my arms have been while typing on a keyboard. Because you're thinking about like a million contingency plans. You need to have like all sorts of permutation combinations in your mind. I just don't think it's good for mental peace. So if you want to go through that entire jargon, it's the perfect sweaty, that dude with the sweaty face all over in gaming 38, depending on team news and all of that, it could pay off. If you think you have the temperament to keep your calm in the 10 minutes when this team news is coming in. But if you think you're somebody who gets confused and is not able to think on your feet in the last 10 minutes, then avoid it. Play it this week.
I don't think you need to that much because you can probably triple up on Arsenal, triple up on Liverpool. Sort of. I don't think that as much. There's probably 3-4 spots that will change it on, but I expect rotation to be rife just because Newcastle, Manchester United might not have anything to play for. They dominate so much of our teams right now.
But
I'm
see,
not
people
the
don't have
the upside is not there this week, right? Who will you even bring in if you free hit?
See, if somebody who has Salah and who doesn't have a way to get to Bruno without selling Salah, maybe a free hit for them this week makes sense, right? Because then you can get the right 3 United. You can get 3 Brighton, which maybe includes Enciso. And then there's single game week fixtures this week too, right? Forest play Arsenal. What else do we have here?
Liverpool play Villa.
Liverpool play Villa. So there are punts for the taking. I'm not entirely against it. You can, if you don't own a Callum Wilson and you want to go there against Leicester, there are some good matchups in general this week as well.
I guess. But I think with Brighton, you probably tripled up. And I think let's just touch upon them. Since I think Brighton, the picks now are McAllister, Estupinan, and Enciso. After 2 of those guys got benched yesterday.
No, I think Mitoma is still a pick. I still think he's a pick, but I do expect him maybe to be benched because De Zerbi's mentioned that. Did you see his quotes in the post-match presser? He was very, very specific about my main guys, and Estupinan, Mitoma, etc. They don't know how to play 3 games a week at the moment, and I'll make sure that they know how to do that next season because they're probably going to be in Europe next season. But he's very aware that these guys, they're not just resting them. He was vocal about their performances dropping as well when they're playing so many games a week. So yeah, that sort of is catching up.
I think, again, we are talking about the spacing, right? It's only 2 days. They play Thursday, Newcastle. They play now Southampton on Sunday. Then they play City on Wednesday. The spacing is the 3 games in 6 days, which is always horrible.
Yeah. Yep.
I think we wrapped up Brighton, City. Let's talk about Chelsea.
Do you sell any of McAllister, Mitoma, etc. that you own for another Brighton asset? I don't think so. I just think stick with the lot you have because 2 home games. Good thing is McAllister's double is done. I was actually thinking about a Brighton captaincy as well, but you pointed out very rightly to me that their schedule is very cramped, and then De Zerbi being very vocal about it in his press conference just added to it. I think United are the way to go, or maybe a Mahrez, or the safe play with Haaland if you're looking at captaincy.
It would be only McAllister from Brighton. I wouldn't be secure about Mitoma's minutes.
Fair.
We've got some data here. This is XGC and XG data in home matches this season for Chelsea's opponents. So both very strong at home. I expect us to concede a combined maybe. I'd be happy if we concede less than 5 goals, honestly, over the last 2 matches. Whether we score or not, I don't think we scored against City, but we might score against you guys. At least I hope so. Otherwise, it's going to be a long summer.
How do you feel about that? We haven't spoken. How do you feel about Pochettino?
Quite good. It all depends though on how the summer transfer window goes. A lot of players who are on very long contracts need to be got rid of. So I think that's just as important.
Yeah, I think your team is just going to be very relevant from an FPL point of view next season. The guys on FML FPL spoke about it and I couldn't agree more because it's essentially the Arsenal syndrome, right? Have a good manager in place. Hopefully he trims the squad. No Europe to think about. Pochettino generally has his 4, 5, 6 guys who are nailed, who don't move away from the team no matter what. So yeah, man, we got to pay close attention to your team in preseason because of the absolute down season that you guys have had this year, you're expecting some prices to drop as well. So there could be some good cheap picks from your team next season. What do you think?
I think obviously in attack, I think Enzo, like we have the number over here, I think Enzo is going to be starting very regularly. And the thing of not having any midweek games, I think we'll see fairly settled lineups from Pochettino early on. He likes using his fullbacks as well. So I think we have good fullbacks and we saw what he did with Rose and Walker when he was at Spurs. So I think James and Chilwell will again be good options when we don't have those midweek games.
Because of the interest that I'm obviously going to show in your team next season, probably should get my kit. And that gives our listeners to not 1, but 2 reasons to listen to the pod next year because we have maybe 1.5 Chelsea fans in here.
Let's talk about Kepa. I think he is the one that's most relevant really for most people in this double. Now, Lamps made a comment before the game. He said that Mendy, we deserve to give him a game because he doesn't think either keepers at a significantly higher level than the other. So all the scenarios are possible. Kepa could start 1, he could start both, he could start none at all. But I think if you own him now, you just start him and let the sub-keeper come in if he needs to be.
Yeah.
That's it.
This is not the time to be spending a time on the keeper. I mean, what are you even doing if you're doing that? I mean, if you're that kind of guy, you're not, or girl, you're not our kind of people. So yeah, man, that's what I'll say. Just hope for the best.
Yeah.
Play
I mean,
Kepa.
what do
Get
you
us.
expect? Like 3-5 points anyway. So it's a bit meh. Like something
Mm,
Rhea. If you have a Rhea, just play Rhea for the save points at Spurs.
exactly. I wouldn't be shifting my keeper position if you're in that place. But let's talk about the people who are desperate. So, anywhere you would go, what do you recommend? One attacking punt, just one from a team.
Sterling, the only one who
I think
seems
Sterling's the
capable of
one.
scoring a goal.
I've got a feeling. I've got a very, very not a strong feeling because of the opposition that Chelsea have, but I think Felix is a good punt. I just rate the player a lot. I hope Lampard plays him. But if you're desperate if you're looking at Chelsea, so Felix is my
I
pick.
don't think he starts both. And Sterling, of course, with the midfield as crowded as it is, his price tag, he's not really investable.
Yeah. Let's talk about just punts from other teams and maybe let's talk a little bit about what do you do with your Liverpool assets. I think we touched upon it earlier in the pod as well. Salah is a keep unless you're very desperate. And still, then I would say that there are other cheaper midfielders in the United midfield who are still captaincy options or Mahrez. So
The only
in
reason I
the
was
hold
mess
Salah
with
camp,
absolutely, and only move him on if you're planning to captain Bruno. I don't see it
yeah,
necessarily working out otherwise.
right. Just looking at the fixture ticker, teams that are on the top: Everton, Wolves, and Bournemouth. DCL is looking likely to be fit. Wolves is away though, who've been very good at their own ground. Do you see a pun there?
Possibly, but I still like Palace more. Fulham and Forest, I think next two. I'd still
Yeah.
rather go
The
for an
thing
essay
is,
there.
most people are Isak owners, right? So the thing is, if you're looking at the striker option, DCL versus Marshall Alvarez, you still prefer Marshall, right?
Yes, I still prefer Marshall. But again, United, most people are already tripled up. So let's look outside of United. I'm just scanning the fixture list really quick. There's obviously Jesus.
There's Gabriel Jesus, there's DCL, there's Diego Jota if you fancy it. If Darwin is out, there's a case. Even though Diaz played last game, I think Jota is a legit punt. Uh, who else do we have? I mean, after looking at that Brentford West Ham game, I was like, who do West Ham play next? Because they were absolutely on the beach. Like Moyes made a ton of changes. He was prioritizing the cup competition. They have that this week as well. So, but then they play Leeds. There isn't a punt there.
Hmm.
That's the problem.
Yeah, because I don't think he necessarily needs to risk Antonio now. They're also pretty much safe. They have a plus 20 GD to like somebody needs to make
Yeah.
up. So I don't think he needs to risk Antonio this week when they just played yesterday in that conference and they're through to the final. Congrats to all West Ham
Yeah.
fans, by the way. That's a huge, massive achievement for them.
Yeah. So, this game happened last night. Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
The,
Yeah,
th-
man. Outside of
the three Italian
Marshall,
teams, I think in
Alvarez.
all the European competitions, there's an Italian team in the final. I think we should mention that as well to all the Serie A followers. That's pretty cool.
Yep, yep. Right. I think we've spoken about the punts outside as well. DCL, Alvarez, Marshall, Isak to Wilson. Would you consider that as a move? Not now. I think the boat's done.
I think pretty much. But I do expect Wilson to start against Leicester, and Leicester are leaky, very leaky. That
Yeah.
being said, let's just mention Leicester's data. We skipped over that. Leicester are actually top three for XG now over the last
Yeah.
few matches, which is interesting.
Last 6. But that
Sorry, last
includes
6.
4 pens that they were.
Oh, it includes pens. Right. So many pens.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. But a lot of
Yeah.
people are benching Trippier this week. Do you think Leicester
He
score?
he's yellow flagged at the moment. So we don't
I
even
think
know
they'll
about
risk him
Trippers.
because it's just one game they need to win, right? If he can walk, I think they'll play him.
Yeah. And they have no cups, pops, none of that.
Nothing.
So yeah. Yeah, I think Trippier is a good player, man. I mean, Neil mentioned in his article that he was very, very due because his XA has been phenomenal. It's just that his teammates haven't been finishing those chances. So the haul that happened, the 2 assists that happened yesterday was just due.
Absolutely. What else do we have? Should we look at the matchups, the Fantasy Media ones?
Yeah, let's do that.
First up, Forest versus Arsenal. Lot of weaknesses down Saka's flank. Trossard, I like. Sounds we heard that Martinelli is out for a while. I think Trossard is a very legit punt also in midfield.
Yeah, the good thing now is that Trossard, Odegaard, Saka, and Jesus. So these four, if you want to look at Arsenal, are just good punts. And even more than the Forest away tie, I mean, Forest are leaking 2 goals almost every game. So that attack is there for that. Defense is there for the taking. The last game is a home tie against Wolves. Just, I feel like Arsenal will want to end the season on a high note, make a statement in front of their fans, etc. as well. So I'm expecting goals. Like Arsenal, in my opinion, are one of the third teams to punt on in 38. So I don't mind going early there.
This is Man United's opponent. Bournemouth, again, lot of weaknesses down the flank on Anthony's side is where this generally favored, but a lot of chances in general. Chelsea, nothing in particular. Just ship chances all over the place. We're about 14th, 13th for XGC since Lamps took
Yeah,
over. But there's no Kante again. I think Kante is still out.
yeah.
For Brighton, obviously, the money game is the Southampton one. I think that's again a good game for their attackers.
What I like about Brighton is that both the games are home games.
Correct.
And you're expecting the City game with 4 or 5 changes from their Madrid team. So that could play well for Brighton. They will still have decent attacking impetus.
McAllister captain is a legit shout, I think, outside probably the other main guys. Only him, I guess.
No, I do go Haaland over McAllister. Like I just feel more confident captaining a Mitoma than a McAllister, but you're worried about Mitoma's minutes in the next. Like, good chance he gets benched for one.
Spot on. Chelsea's opponents. Let's skip. There's no point wasting time on Chelsea's opponents. City's opponents, again, nothing in particular. Weakness to attack.
People are looking for her. I mean, some people were asking me questions about a defender outside of Luke Shaw. And I do want to mention that Victor Lindelof has fairly decent baseline bonus as well. So if you're looking for a cheap defender, maybe as an enabler, could be a decent place to go.
Do you think he necessarily starts? You couldn't put Shaw with Varane instead?
No, I think Lindelof is good. I think Shaw starts wing back. I think that backline that was there against Wolves, I don't think it changes the next 2 games.
Cool. Bus teams?
Yeah. And that's going to add up, right? Like, Zoff, it's been 2 weeks of no midweek football for Man United. So, like, the legs are recharged. I think it was a good period because we were on our last legs now. I think just having 2 weeks of one game a week is going to add up and he's going to play a consistent lineup.
Right. This is my team up first. I've got Edison, Trippier, Trent, Estupinan, Rashford, Mitoma, McAllister, Salah, Bruno, Isak, and Haaland with 1 million in the bank. 3 options really. It'll either be Henry to Shaw, Isak to Marshall, or Roll.
You still own Rico.
I still own
kept
Rico.
Him, huh? Or,
yes, he's been here the whole time. This is when the Shaw thing possibly might bite me because I've been very lucky with Shaw. I think in game week 34, I got the assist of Botman. The 29 double, he went off injured when United kept a clean sheet, and then he's been at centre back.
Yeah. And it's a thing to say about Isak, right? I mean, he's still a very comfortable play. We're talking about Leicester here. And if you're thinking about the amount of space they afford their opponents, like Isak will flourish as well.
The game state is going to be open.
Good.
It's like once Newcastle scored, Leicester have no choice but to chase the game.
Yeah. And like we saw yesterday also, Newcastle are capable of scoring 4-5 goals against any opposition. Like there's no need or reason to sell Isak just because of what happened in this game week. It's perfectly fine hold as well.
Spot on. Your team?
Yeah. Yeah, man, I'm in a little bit of a fix. Like I have a luxury transfer to make, but I might roll the dice because I've got Kepa. In defense, I've got Shaw, Estupinan, and Trent, which means I'm currently benched.
Oh, shucks. Our Zoom meeting has crapped out, guys. I'm just going to send LR the link once again. Bear with us. I think we're almost close to wrapping up anyway. Just bear with us a few minutes. Oh, doesn't look like Zoom is going to let us back in, so we're going to have to end the stream, I'm afraid. I'll just read out LR's team for you guys. It's Kepa, Shaw, Estupinan, Trent, Grealish, McAllister, Salah, Mitoma, Rashford, Alvarez, and Haaland. I think he's got 1 free transfer. I'm not sure how much he's got in the bank, but I guess you can follow what he wants to do more on Twitter. That's it from us. Sorry about the tech issues getting started. Our usual premium Zoom account randomly wanted to do a 2-factor authentication. That's why we had a delay and we had to start with a free Zoom today. So we managed to cram it all within 40 minutes. Bakar couldn't join us since he's having some issues with his not government, internet in Pakistan. But he hopes to be back with us next week. So do join us then for the final pod of the season. Thanks for joining us today. Goodbye.